In the middle of the New Mexico desert, there is a quiet town called Taos, a peaceful place surrounded by mountains, known for art, silence, and endless empty skies. But for decades, some people in that town claimed they could hear something strange. A low humming sound, soft, distant, constant. Hum, hum, hum. At first, many described it as a diesel engine idling somewhere far away. Others said it sounded like a giant machine buried beneath the ground. But the strangest part was this. Almost nobody else could hear it. Inside the same house, one person would stay awake all night because of the sound, while the person sleeping beside them heard absolutely nothing. Scientists brought equipment into the town. They measured vibrations, electrical signals, low frequencies, but no clear source was ever found. And yet, the people who heard it insisted on one thing. The sound was real, not imagination, not hallucination. Something was there. Eventually, the complaints became so serious, they reached the United States Congress. In 1993, the mystery became large enough to trigger an official congressional hearing. People eventually gave the phenomenon a name: the Taos Hum. And according to some residents, the sound never stopped. Even today, someone may still be hearing it. In the early 1990s, strange reports began appearing throughout Taos, New Mexico. Residents described hearing a deep, low, vibrating noise late at night. Some compared it to a diesel engine running in the distance. Others said it felt like a massive machine slowly turning somewhere behind the walls. At first, most people ignored it. They assumed it was traffic, electrical lines, refrigerators, or some other ordinary background noise. But over time, people started noticing something disturbing. The sound never seemed to come from one direction. Sometimes it felt distant. Other times, it sounded as if it was directly inside the room. Some residents even said it felt as though the sound itself was moving. But the most unsettling part was this: not everyone could hear it. Two people could stand in the exact same place, and only one of them would notice the humming. One married couple later claimed they slept in the same bed every night, yet only the husband heard the sound. His wife slept peacefully beside him, completely unaware of anything unusual. That was when people started asking a terrifying question. If this was only normal environmental noise, why could almost nobody else hear it? As investigations continued, researchers discovered something even stranger. Only around 2% of Taos residents claimed they could hear the hum. The remaining 98% heard absolutely nothing. Then investigators noticed another bizarre pattern. Normally, human hearing becomes weaker with age, especially when it comes to higher frequencies. But the Taos Hum appeared to behave differently. Older residents, particularly people over 50, reported hearing the sound more often than younger adults. That detail confused researchers. Human hearing does vary from person to person. Age can affect sensitivity to certain frequencies. But the Taos Hum showed too many unusual consistencies to be explained that easily. Then scientists began analyzing the characteristics of the sound itself. Some experts estimated the hum existed somewhere between 30 and 80 hertz, an extremely low frequency, near the lower limit of human hearing. The volume was also surprisingly quiet, only around 15 to 20 decibels, softer than falling leaves. But for the small number of people who could hear it, the effect felt overwhelming. Some described it as a giant truck engine starting directly beside their heads. Others said it did not feel like ordinary sound at all. It felt more like pressure, like something vibrating deep inside the body itself. At first, many doctors and experts dismissed the phenomenon entirely. Stress, anxiety, tinnitus. That was the most common explanation. Tinnitus is real. People sometimes hear ringing, buzzing, or humming sounds, even when no external noise exists. So many assumed the Taos Hum was simply another form of that condition. But eventually, researchers discovered something that made the situation far more disturbing. The people who heard the hum all reported the same strange experience. When they completely left Taos, the sound disappeared. Some claimed they had to drive dozens of kilometers away before the humming finally stopped. And when they returned to town, the sound returned with them. That detail changed everything. Because if the problem existed only inside the ear, changing location should not have mattered. For many residents, that became the moment the fear truly began. Maybe this was not tinnitus after all. Maybe something real was actually producing the sound. As the complaints grew louder, residents became desperate. People reported severe insomnia, persistent headaches, anxiety, and constant exhaustion. But what frustrated them most was the feeling that nobody believed them. Some residents eventually organized petitions. They insisted they were not imagining things. Something was happening in Taos. And eventually, the situation became impossible to ignore. In 1993, then New Mexico Congressman Bill Richardson requested an official federal investigation into the phenomenon. The mystery became serious enough to trigger an actual congressional hearing in the United States. What began as strange local complaints had now become a national mystery. But even after government involvement, no definitive answer was ever found. And that may have been the most frightening part of all. Government investigators and acoustic experts eventually traveled directly to Taos. They visited homes where residents claimed the hum was strongest. Sensitive microphones were installed. Electromagnetic signals were measured. Even tiny ground vibrations were monitored. At first, everyone expected a simple explanation. Power lines, industrial machinery, highway noise. Something ordinary, something measurable. But the results became increasingly strange. The equipment failed to identify any single clear source. And then came one of the most unsettling moments in the entire investigation. Inside one resident's home, investigators shut everything down. The refrigerator was unplugged. Lights were turned off. Electrical systems were carefully inspected. The house became almost completely silent, and yet, during the tests, a faint vibration was reportedly still detected. Some accounts even claimed the metal frame of a bed appeared to vibrate slightly during measurements. Not violently, not dramatically, just enough to make investigators uncomfortable. Even more disturbing, a few members of the investigation team later admitted they themselves experienced unusual low-frequency sensations late at night. That detail changed the atmosphere surrounding the case completely. Because if physical vibrations were actually being detected, then the phenomenon could no longer be dismissed as simple imagination. Something, somewhere, might truly have been producing the sound. As scientists struggled to explain the phenomenon, Several theories began to emerge. One of the most widely discussed ideas involved the Earth itself, because the planet is never truly silent. Even now, the Earth constantly vibrates beneath our feet. Massive ocean waves striking the sea floor can generate extremely low-frequency vibrations. And according to some studies, those vibrations can travel enormous distances through the Earth's crust. A few researchers wondered if the Taos Hum could be connected to something like that. A planetary vibration, an Earth hum. The theory sounded surprisingly plausible, especially because many residents described the phenomenon as something they did not simply hear. They felt it. Some compared it to pressure inside the skull. Others claimed their entire bodies seemed to vibrate while lying in bed at night. One resident described it as feeling inside the bones. But another explanation soon appeared. Some scientists suggested the unique geography of Taos itself might be responsible. Sound does not always travel in straight lines. Temperature, humidity, wind, mountains, and valleys can all bend and concentrate low-frequency sound waves in strange ways. Researchers began considering the possibility that distant highway noise, industrial vibrations, or other environmental sounds were being funneled into certain parts of Taos like a giant acoustic lens. Some residents even reported the sound changing, depending on where they stood inside the house. Near one wall, the humming felt stronger. A few steps away, it suddenly weakened. The theory seemed realistic. Taos sits between desert terrain and surrounding mountain ranges. The area also experiences dramatic temperature shifts between day and night. Conditions like that can sometimes allow low-frequency sound to travel unusually far. But despite every theory, one problem remained. Nothing fully explained why only a tiny percentage of people could hear the sound. And no matter how many investigations took place, the hum itself never completely disappeared. Residents describe the same terrifying pattern again and again. The quieter the town became, the clearer the hum sounded. During the daytime, traffic, voices, wind, and normal city noise helped bury the vibration beneath everyday life. But after sunset, the sound slowly became impossible to ignore. Some people claimed they woke up every night around 2 a.m. At first, they believed a truck was idling somewhere outside. But when they looked out the window, the streets were empty. No cars, no people, only silence. And beneath that silence, the low vibration continued. Some residents said they eventually started sleeping with pillows pressed tightly against their ears. Others claimed they became afraid of complete silence itself, because silence was when the hum became strongest. And over time, people began doubting themselves. Am I imagining this? Am I losing my mind? But what frightened them most was how similar their experiences were. People from completely different lives described nearly identical experiences. And yet, their descriptions sounded eerily alike. A deep vibration, pressure inside the head, sleepless nights, an overwhelming sense that something invisible was constantly present. Some residents later admitted something even stranger. Once they became aware of the hum, they could never fully return to silence again. The feeling stayed with them, and slowly, the Taos Hum stopped being just a noise mystery. It became something far more disturbing, a mystery about human perception itself, because perhaps the most frightening possibility was not that the sound existed, but that most people simply could not hear it. Reports of similar phenomena continue even today. Around the world, people still describe hearing unexplained low-frequency humming sounds late at night, a vibration that seems impossible to locate, a sound that appears strongest in silence, something you cannot escape once you notice it. Some people insist it is only environmental noise. Others believe humanity may still not fully understand what causes certain low-frequency phenomena. But the Taos Hum remains different for one reason. Despite decades of investigations, scientific studies, and government involvement, the mystery was never completely solved. There are still unanswered spaces inside the story, and mysteries tend to survive longest inside those empty spaces. The reason the Taos Hum feels so terrifying is simple. There are no monsters, no ghosts, no shadow standing outside the window. There is only a sound. Or perhaps something that does not even behave like sound at all. Nobody knows for certain whether it is heard through the ears, felt through the body, or carried through the earth itself. But for the people who experienced it, the hum was undeniably real. Late at night, when every light inside the house has been turned off, and the world becomes completely silent, some people claim the vibration slowly returns. Hum, 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 a sound quieter than falling leaves, yet powerful enough to feel like a massive truck engine roaring beside your head. And in that moment, you may realize something unsettling. The scariest sound is not the one everyone hears. It is the one only you can hear. If this story left you wondering, the next one is waiting for you. Subscribe and stay with us.